By 10 in the morning, Lily Carter's knee was already screaming. The Brightways store hummed under the harsh ceiling lights, shopping carts rattling, kids whining, announcements buzzing overhead. Lily wove through the clothing racks with an armful of returns, her name tag bouncing against her chest. Every step sent a hot, buzzing pain up the side of her right leg. "Lily, can you hit aisle 12? Her manager called from the front. "We've got a mess in clearance." Of course it was clearance. It was always clearance. "I've already done electronics and toys," she said, trying to keep her voice neutral. "Yeah, and now you're doing 12, he replied, not even looking up from his tablet. Her jaw tightened. She shifted her weight to her left leg, trying to hide the slight tremble in the right. "Mark, I'm serious. My knee's been getting worse. I asked last month if I could move to customer service or the fitting rooms. Anything where I'm not on my feet all day." Mark finally glanced at her, eyes flicking from her face to the crowded store and back. "We're short-staffed. You're fast on the floor. Customer service is full. Look, I'd love to help, but this is what we've got. You can't dump your job on other people because your leg hurts." Because your leg hurts. Like she was being dramatic. Like the grinding in her joint was just an inconvenience. "It's not just hurting," she said, her voice tightening. "It locks. Sometimes my leg gives out." "Then take shorter steps," he said. "And if it gets really bad, clock out and go home. But don't ask me for a desk job. We don't have those here." He walked away before she could answer. Lily bit the inside of her cheek, tasting the metallic hint of blood. She'd had problems with this knee since high school after a bad fall, but back then there was no money for physical therapy or surgery. Just ice, cheap painkillers, and hope. Now, 8 hours a day on cheap rubber flooring was grinding whatever was left of the joint into dust. A notification buzzed on her phone in her apron pocket. On her break, she checked it. A text from Mia. "How's the knee? You okay? Don't forget rent is due Friday." Lily smiled despite herself. "I'm fine. Don't worry. Focus on your exam." She slid the phone away, squared her shoulders, and limped toward aisle 12. By 3 in the afternoon, the world narrowed to the sound of her own breathing. The pain no longer came in stabs, but in a constant roaring throb. She found herself leaning on carts, shelves, anything solid. Customers started asking, "Are you all right?" And she answered automatically, "Yes, I'm okay," even as her vision blurred around the edges. She was fronting shampoo bottles when it happened. Her knee buckled sharply, a white-hot spike of pain shooting up her thigh. The shelf swayed. Her hand missed the edge. For a second she was weightless, and then the floor rushed up with a horrible clarity. She didn't even feel herself hit the ground. Voices came first, muffled like they were underwater. "Ma'am, can you hear me? Call 911. She just dropped." Her eyelids felt glued shut. When she finally pried them open, she saw bright fluorescent light and a stranger's worried face hovering over her. Where am I?" she croaked. "In the store," a female coworker said, kneeling beside her. "You passed out. You were grabbing your knee, and then you just..." The pain returned with a vengeance, roaring back into her body. Lily sucked in a breath, fingers clawing at her jeans over the swollen joint. "Don't move," someone said. "Ambulance is on its way." Lily wanted to argue, to say she couldn't afford that, that she'd rather crawl home than pay for a ride, but the words tangled in her throat. Her heart pounded. She thought of rent, of Mia, of the way Mark hadn't even looked up when she begged for a different position. For a second, she hated everyone. The store, the customers, her manager, and the invisible man in the glass tower somewhere downtown who made money off people like her burning out. The one whose name was on the corporate emails, Ethan Cole. A CEO, visionary, youngest this, richest that. She'd never seen his face except in glossy magazine photos near the register. Clean suit, calm eyes. No idea what it felt like to choose which bill to pay late. By the time the paramedics arrived, she was shaking. At the hospital, the air smelled like antiseptic and plastic. They slid her into a bed, strapped her knee in place, took blood, x-rays, scans. Everything cost money. Every machine looked like a bill waiting to be mailed. A doctor in blue scrubs appeared at her bedside later, holding a chart. "Lily Carter," he said. She nodded, throat dry. "You've had issues with this knee for a while, right?" "Since I was 16, she said. "But it got really bad after I started working at Brightways. I'm on it all day. No breaks, unless you count lunch." He sighed, the kind of sigh people used when they already knew the answer and didn't like it. "The scans show advanced damage to the joint. The cartilage is worn down. There are signs of old injury that never healed properly, and the recent strain made everything worse." "Worse how?" "You need surgery," he said softly. "Soon." "Not sometime in the future soon. We're talking weeks, not years, if you want to avoid permanent disability." Her stomach dropped. "I can't afford surgery," she whispered. "I'm not a billing specialist," he said. "But I am going to be honest. From your description, the repetitive stress from your job made this much worse than it had to be. You should talk to a lawyer, or at least your employer's HR department." She laughed, a short, bitter sound. "HR. Right." He hesitated, then added, "If your company has any sense of responsibility, they should be helping you with this. You can't go back to walking 10, 12 hours a day on that knee. Not if you want to walk at all." After he left, Lily stared at the ceiling tiles until they blurred. Surgery, lawyer, employer, words she didn't have the money or the energy to deal with. But she had someone to picture now, not just the logo on her vest. A person, Ethan Cole, the man at the top while her body broke at the bottom. By the time she was discharged with a brace, prescriptions, and a folder of instructions, she had already made 2 impossible decisions. She would scrape together every cent she could for the initial surgery costs, and she would find a way to stand in front of the millionaire CEO who had built a fortune on people like her. If her knee was going to be sacrificed to his company, he was going to look her in the eye and see what it cost. The lobby of Cole Holdings looked like another planet. Lily's crutches clicked on polished marble, each sound too loud in the echoing space. Men in suits glided past her, eyes sliding over her as if she were a smudge on glass. She felt the brace under her jeans, the pull in her knee with every step. "Ma'am, can I help you?" the receptionist asked, her smile perfectly practiced. "I need to see Ethan Cole," Lily said. Her voice shook, so she straightened her shoulders and tried again. "Now." The receptionist's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Lily tightened her grip on the crutches. "But your company helped wreck my knee, and I'm not leaving until I talk to him." The woman's smile faltered. For a moment, Lily thought they'd call security immediately. Instead, the receptionist picked up the phone. "Someone is here regarding a workplace injury," she murmured. "Yes. She says it's urgent." "Understood." Lily's stomach twisted. All of this, marble, glass, metal, built from people like her rushing down aisles and pretending they weren't in pain. Minutes later, a tall man in a dark suit appeared near the elevators. His tie was neat, his hair perfectly in place. He looked at the receptionist, then at Lily. "Miss Carter?" he asked. "Yes." "I'm Daniel. Mr. Cole can give you a few minutes." He hesitated, as if surprised by his own words. "I'll take you up." The elevator ride felt endless. As they rose, Lily watched the numbers blink higher, thinking of her father and the way he used to say, "People at the top don't see who they're standing on." The doors opened onto a quiet floor flooded with natural light. Daniel led her down a hallway and stopped in front of a glass office. Through it, she saw him. Ethan Cole was leaning against his desk, phone to his ear, brows drawn together. He wore a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his forearms, no tie. The man from the magazine photos, except more real, more solid, and more dangerous somehow. Daniel knocked on the door frame. Ethan glanced up, saw Lily's crutches, and straightened. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, then hung up and set it aside. For a beat, all three of them stood there. "You can go, Daniel," Ethan said quietly. Daniel left, closing the door behind Lily. "What happened?" Ethan asked, eyes flicking to her knee, then back to her face. His voice was calm, cool, neutral. Lily's anger rushed up to meet that calm. "I worked for your store," she said. "Brightways. I begged for a different position because my knee was getting worse. They kept me on the floor until I collapsed. Now I need surgery." She tossed the hospital folder onto his desk. Papers slid out, scans, notes, the doctor's written recommendation. The doctor said the job made it worse. He said I should talk to my employer. So here I am, talking. Ethan picked up the papers, scanned them quickly. His jaw clenched almost imperceptibly. "I'm sorry this happened," he said, "but there's a process for workplace injuries. HR, insurance, incident reports." "I did the incident report," she cut in. "My manager made a face and told me I should have taken better care of myself. HR said they'd get back to me. They didn't. The surgery deposit is due next week. I've already emptied my savings and borrowed from everyone I know." Her voice cracked, but she pressed on. "You built this," she said. "This company. This system where people like me break down and get replaced. You don't get to shrug and say it's the process. You could fix this with a signature." He stared at her, expression unreadable. Cold, she thought. Of course he was cold. He lived above the mess. "If I personally pay for one surgery," he said slowly, "I set a precedent. Everyone will expect direct payouts, and any deviation from policy could be used against the company in court. So, you're worried about court more than whether I'll be able to walk in 10 years, she shot back. His gaze sharpened. "I'm saying there are legal structures in place. I can't bypass all of them because someone walks into my office." "Crutches," she snapped. "I crutched into your office." Something flickered in his eyes, there and gone. "I will ask HR to review your case immediately," he said. "But I can't promise you what you're asking for. Not like this. Not today." The finality in his tone hit harder than she expected. Lily felt heat rush up her neck. Of course, she said, bitter. Policy over people. You must sleep so well. Her fingers were shaking as she turned toward the door. Before she could reach it, it opened. Daniel stood there with 2 security guards behind him, uncertainty in his eyes. Miss Carter, he said gently, we'll escort you downstairs. Ethan didn't stop them, didn't call her back. He just watched, face unreadable, as she was guided out of his office like a problem being removed. By the time Lily reached the bus stop, the city had gone dark. Her leg throbbed with every movement. Cold air seeped through her jeans. Streetlights washed the sidewalk in a dirty orange glow. She checked the bus schedule, then sank down onto the bench, chest tight. All that pain, all that humiliation. And for what? A polite refusal. Her throat burned. She refused to cry in front of strangers, so she bit the inside of her cheek and stared at the road. Footsteps approached behind her. Heavy. Slow. Hey, a male voice said. Too close. Lily turned. A man in a hooded jacket stood there, eyes darting, jaw clenched. Her pulse jumped. Nice crutches, he said with a thin smile. Looks like you can't run. He pulled a knife from his pocket. Small, but sharp enough to catch the streetlight. I don't have anything, Lily said, breath speeding up. I just came from the hospital. I don't. Everyone's got something, he hissed, stepping closer. Phone, cash, jewelry. Hand it over. She let out a short, broken laugh. It sounded wrong in the cold air. I don't have any money left, she said. Ask my landlord. Ask the hospital. Ask the man in the glass tower, who just told me no. Quit talking. He reached for her bag. Instinct overrode pain. Lily twisted away, crutch slipping on the pavement. The movement sent a bolt of agony through her knee. She screamed, raw and loud. Hey, another voice shouted. Drop it. 3 men strode out from the shadows near a parked car. Suits. Coats. Not cops. Too well-dressed, too precise. One of them grabbed the mugger's wrist. The knife clattered to the ground. Within seconds, the man was running down the street, cursing. Lily stared, breath ragged. Who are you? The oldest of the 3 straightened his jacket. We're with Cole Holdings. She froze. You're from the company? He nodded. We were asked to keep an eye on you after you left the building. Make sure you got home safely. A hot, complicated wave rolled through her. So he does care, she said, half to herself. The man's hesitation was almost invisible, but she caught it. Let me guess, Lily added bitterly. You're not just here to protect me. You're here to make sure I don't limp into a lawyer's office. None of them answered. That silence told her more than any denial. They followed the bus in their car all the way to her neighborhood. When she hobbled up the stairs to her apartment, she glanced back and saw the sedan idling at the curb, headlights off. Inside, Mia was at the tiny kitchen table, textbooks spread out. Lily, what happened? I got a call from the hospital and... I'm fine, Lily lied. Just tired. There was a cardboard box on the counter. Plain, no logo. A sticky note on top with her name, written in neat, unfamiliar handwriting. Her stomach clenched. Did you open that? Mia shook her head. It was on the doorstep when I got home. No return address. Lily peeled off the note and lifted the lid. Stacks of cash stared back at her, neatly bundled, more money than she had ever seen in one place. On top of the bills was a folded piece of paper. Her fingers trembled as she unfolded it. For your surgery. No conditions. EC. For a long second, she couldn't breathe. Her first thought was ugly and immediate. Hush money. Silence bought in advance, in case she found a lawyer after all. He'd refused in person, then sent this from the safety of his office, like she was a problem to be paid away. Mia's eyes were wide. Lily, is this real? Lily stared at the money, then at the note, at the initials of the man who had looked her in the eye and said no. Her knee throbbed, cold and heavy. It's real, she said quietly, and tomorrow I'm giving it back to him. The next morning, Lily's knee throbbed with every heartbeat, but she barely noticed. Rage numbed everything else. She stuffed the cash back into the box, leaving only the note. That flimsy little square of paper felt heavier than the money itself. She folded it once, twice, and slipped it into her pocket like evidence. Mia hovered by the door. Are you sure about this? Yes, Lily said. I'm not taking money from someone who thinks I'm a liability. What if he actually meant it? Mia asked softly. What if he, I don't know, feels bad? People like him don't feel bad, Lily muttered, fighting the tremor in her voice. They feel inconvenienced. She didn't let Mia see how her hands shook as she grabbed her crutches and the box and headed out. The lobby receptionist recognized her immediately this time. Her polite smile vanished. Miss Carter. I need 5 minutes, Lily said. He sent something to my house. I'm returning it. There must have been a note on her file because the receptionist didn't argue. She made a call, listened, then nodded. Go ahead, she said quietly. He'll see you. Lily's heart pounded as she ascended in the elevator. The box balanced awkwardly on her hip. She could almost feel Mia's eyes on her from miles away, the weight of her sister's hope pressing between her shoulder blades. The office door was open. Ethan stood by the window, hands in his pockets. Morning light made a pale outline around him. He turned as she entered. Miss Carter. She limped in, set the box on his desk with more force than necessary. The bundles inside shifted with a dull thump. What is this supposed to be? She asked. Guilt? Or just a way to make sure I don't cause trouble? His gaze flicked to the box, then back to her face. It's money for your surgery. No strings attached. There's always strings, she said. You said no to my face. Then you sent spies to follow me and a box of cash like I'm some problem to be contained. Do you have any idea how insulting that is? His jaw tightened. I had you followed because you were leaving the building late at night on crutches in a bad part of town. I wanted to make sure you got home alive. Congratulations, she shot back. Your men scared off one guy with a knife and then lurked outside my building like I might bolt for a courthouse. He didn't deny it. Somehow that made it worse. I don't take charity, she said, voice low. Not from you. Not like this. She ripped the note from her pocket and slapped it on top of the cash. Keep your hush money, Mr. Cole. For a second, something unguarded crossed his face. Hurt? Annoyance? She couldn't tell. It was gone before she could name it. Whether you believe it or not, he said evenly, there is no condition attached to that box. Then you won't mind when I leave it right here. She turned and crutched toward the door. You can hate the company, he said quietly behind her. You can hate me, but don't throw away something you need just to prove a point. She paused with her hand on the door frame, anger and something else clawing at her chest. My knee, my life, my point, she said without turning around. You don't get to define what I need. And then she left. By afternoon, the adrenaline had burned off, leaving a hollow ache. The hospital had called to confirm the deposit deadline. Mia had texted 3 times about college application fees Lily still hadn't paid. She went to the cheapest grocery store 2 bus stops away, the one with dim lighting and dented cans and wire bins. Familiar territory, comforting in a sad way. She leaned on the cart like a second pair of crutches, drifting automatically toward the clearance section. Yellow stickers shouted 50% off, 70% OFF on things that were always almost expired. She checked dates like a pro, weighing the difference between Best Buy and barely edible. It was humiliating how practiced she was at poverty. She turned the corner with her half-empty basket and almost slammed straight into someone else's cart. Sorry, Her apology died in her throat. Ethan Cole stood on the other side of the cart, sleeves rolled up, phone in one hand, a shopping list tucked into the other. His cart was nearly full, fresh vegetables, brand-name pasta, good coffee, a rotisserie chicken that still steamed in its bag. What is he doing here? It wasn't even the kind of store that matched his polished world. He looked like he'd taken a wrong turn out of a magazine photo shoot. His eyes widened in recognition. Lily. He said her name like he was surprised it existed outside his office. Her face burned. She glanced at his cart, then at her own. A jar of generic peanut butter, a bag of bruised apples, instant noodles, store-brand bread with a clearance sticker. Of all the places, of all the people. Excuse me, she muttered, forcing the cart past his, wheels squealing. Wait, he said. We should. I'm not talking to you in a grocery aisle, she snapped, not looking back. Some of us still have budgets. She escaped to a different aisle and spent the rest of the trip ducking around displays, trying to avoid him. It was ridiculous. This was her turf, not his. And yet she felt like the intruder, like a poor extra who'd wandered onto the wrong set. At the checkout, she placed her items on the conveyor belt, mentally tallying numbers she couldn't afford to get wrong. Bread, apples, noodles, peanut butter, milk. Cheaper cheese. She'd be cutting it close, but if she used the last of the cash in her wallet, her fingers found only fabric. Cold washed over her. She patted her pockets, checked her bag, panic flaring. No wallet. The cashier was already scanning items. That'll be $28.42, she said dully. I'm sorry, Lily stammered. I must have left my wallet at home. I can't. There was a shuffle behind her. A familiar voice, calm and smooth. Put it on mine, Ethan said, stepping up beside her. Lily whipped around. No, absolutely not. He ignored her protest and handed his card to the cashier, who accepted it with wide, curious eyes. Sir, that's really not, Lily began. You need groceries, he said, in that maddeningly even tone. I can afford groceries. I don't want anything from you, she hissed. Being cornered at HQ was one thing. Being pitted in public, with her sad little pile of necessities broadcast under fluorescent lights, was another. Too late, he said, soft but firm. I already paid. The receipt printed. The cashier bagged the food in an awkward silence. Why are you here? Lily asked, voice scraping raw. Did you follow me? A flash of offense crossed his face. I came here because I used to shop here. Old habits. I didn't know you'd be here. He nodded toward the exit. Can we talk? Somewhere that isn't the frozen vegetable aisle. She opened her mouth to say no. Then she looked at the bags, at the people in line behind them staring, at the cashier's impatient expression, at the cart she couldn't push, and the knee that wouldn't survive another trip today. 10 minutes, she said through clenched teeth. Then I never owe you anything again. He inclined his head like she'd just agreed to a business deal. There's a cafe across the parking lot. She grabbed the bags, refused his offer to carry them, and limped toward the door. She hated him. She did. But as they stepped out into the weak afternoon light, a treacherous thought whispered at the back of her mind. If he grew up shopping here, too, what else about him isn't what she thought? The cafe across the parking lot tried very hard not to look cheap. Warm bulbs, fake plants, chalkboard menu. Still, the smell of burnt coffee clung to everything. Lily set her grocery bags by the table and eased herself into a chair, adjusting her brace with a wince. Ethan sat across from her, unbothered, like this was his usual afternoon. Meetings, mergers, and paying for strangers' clearance groceries. I'm not thanking you, she said before he could speak, for the food or the money in that box. I didn't ask you to, he replied calmly. I asked you to talk. She folded her arms. Then talk. Explain to me how a man who grew up choosing between brands of caviar ends up shopping at my discount store and sending people with knives running. His mouth twitched, not quite a smile. I've never bought caviar in my life. Congratulations, she said. You're relatable. He leaned back, looking at her for a long moment, as if deciding how much of himself she deserved. I grew up 5 blocks from that store, he said finally. Different building then. Same type of aisles. We used to come here because it was the only place my mom could stretch cash far enough to feed us and pay rent. Lily blinked. She hadn't expected that. Your mom? She asked cautiously. She worked double shifts, he said. Diner, then night cleaning. There were weeks when the only time I saw her was when she fell asleep at the kitchen table with her uniform still on. His gaze dropped to his hands. We shopped clearance first. I know which shelf they hide the almost expired meat on. Her brain stuttered. The image didn't line up with the polished man in front of her. So you escaped, she said slowly. Good for you. Some of us are still stuck there. And your company makes sure we stay that way. His eyes snapped to hers. You think I built this to trap people? I think you built a machine and never looked under it, she shot back. My dad got hurt at work when I was a kid. The company fought him on every payment until he gave up. I watched him limp for years because some lawyer decided his pain was too expensive. She hadn't meant to say that. The words came out sharp, pulled from somewhere tender. Ethan's expression shifted, surprise, then something like recognition. And now you think I'm that lawyer. You're worse, she said. You're the one they answer to. Silence settled between them, heavy, filled with the hiss of the espresso machine. I built policies, he said at last, voice low. Systems. I thought if everything was standardized, less would slip through the cracks. Fewer people would get hurt by favoritism or bias. But it also means I'm separated. I see reports, not faces. You saw mine, she said. You still said no. His jaw tightened. Because if I pay you directly, it opens a door. Anyone with a questionable claim can say, but you paid her. The entire framework we use to keep the company stable starts to erode. And if the company collapses, thousands of people lose their jobs. Health insurance. Stability. It's not as simple as writing checks every time something feels unfair. I'm one person, she whispered. One knee. And I'm one man with lawyers watching my every move, he answered. It doesn't mean I don't care. It means I'm afraid of pulling the wrong brick out of the wall. Lily stared at him, stunned by the word. Afraid. She hadn't imagined fear anywhere on him. So sending me a box of cash with no explanation is you pulling a brick quietly? She asked. That was me stepping outside the system, he admitted. Probably stupid. Definitely reckless. But at least you'd get the surgery. And then what? She demanded. I heal up just in time to go back and limp down your aisles until something else snaps? Something raw flickered over his face. Guilt, she realized. Or maybe shame. No, he said quietly. If you'd taken it, I was going to call the regional manager and have you moved to a desk job while you recovered. At full pay. She sucked in a breath. The room tilted for a second. You could have just said that, she managed. You didn't stay long enough for me to, he said, a tiny edge finally creeping into his voice. You came in, threw money in my face, and walked out. The words lodged under her skin. Because he wasn't wrong. She came into every battle convinced she already knew the villain. My dad wrote letters for months, she said, softer now. To his company. To the union. To anyone. No one answered. I learned pretty young not to wait around for people in suits to suddenly grow a conscience. He studied her. So, you decided to never give any of us a chance. If you had my life, she said, you wouldn't either. Their eyes locked. For the first time, the anger wasn't one way. She could see his now, simmering under that composed surface. Not anger at her, exactly, but at something bigger neither of them knew how to fight. You're right about one thing, he said. I don't see enough. I spend most days in rooms where people are more worried about quarterly numbers than they are about whose knee is going to give out next. Must be nice, she muttered. It's not, he said, surprising her. It's lonely, she scoffed. Oh, poor millionaire. All alone in his corner office. That's not what I mean, he said, and there was a flash of frustration there, like she kept grabbing the wrong end of his sentences. You still think I'm some cartoon villain. I think you're complicated, she blurted, then cursed herself inwardly. His eyebrows lifted. Complicated is an improvement from heartless. Don't get cocky, she said quickly, heat creeping up her neck. I still don't trust you. I don't blame you, he replied. But I want to understand you. The honesty in his tone knocked her off balance more than his confession about clearance meat. Why? She asked. You have an entire corporation to run. I'm one employee who probably doesn't matter much on a spreadsheet. Because you're the first person in a long time who looked me in the eye and told me exactly what my decisions felt like at the bottom, he said. Because you keep walking back into my life even when you swear you're done with me. And because I can't stop thinking about you limping into my office and still standing straighter than half the executives I know. Her heart tripped over itself. She didn't like the way the air changed between them, how the tension shifted from pure anger into something warmer, sharper, more dangerous. I didn't come here for compliments, she said, trying to sound steady. I didn't come here to give them, he answered. But they're true. She picked at the cardboard sleeve of her coffee cup, trying to ignore the way her pulse beat in her ears. This doesn't change anything, she said. I still have a surgery I can't afford. A sister who needs me. A job that will chew me up if I go back the same way. He nodded slowly. Then let me try again. No boxes on your doorstep. No shadows following your bus. You and me, sitting down like adults, figuring out what I can do within the system and where I can push it for you. You think it's that simple? She asked. No, he said. I think it'll be messy and HR will hate me and my board might question my judgment. But I also think I'll hate myself more if I do nothing. The words landed with uncomfortable weight. Lily studied him, really studied him this time. The lines at the corners of his eyes that shouldn't be there for someone his age. The faint tension in his shoulders, like he was perpetually braced for impact. He didn't look like her father's boss had looked, soft and overfed and smug. He looked tired and alone and, worst of all, sincere. How did I get here? She thought, vaguely horrified. How am I sitting in a cafe, not screaming at this man? Aloud, she said, one conversation doesn't fix 10 years of watching people like you step over people like me. I know, he said, but maybe it's a start. She didn't agree. Not out loud, but she didn't walk out either. As the afternoon light shifted and the coffee cooled between them, Lily realized the most terrifying thing of all. Her hatred had been simple. Clean. Easy. This new thing, this tangled knot of anger and reluctant empathy, was much more dangerous. Because for the first time, when she looked at Ethan Cole, she didn't just see a man in a glass tower. She saw a boy pushing a beaten-up cart down the same clearance aisle she had walked that morning, both of them pretending not to notice the price of everything. The envelope was wedged under her apartment door when she got home from physical therapy. No logo, no return address. Just her name in a neat, precise handwriting she recognized now from the note that had come with the box of money. Lily. She stared at it for a long moment, groceries still hanging from her wrist. Her knee twinged, but not like before. The surgery had gone well. The brace was slimmer now, the pain more of a nagging ache than a scream. She should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt cornered by a piece of paper. Mia appeared behind her, pulling out earbuds. What's that? I don't know yet, Lily said, though she was afraid she did. She opened it carefully. One sheet of thick paper, the same clean handwriting. I owe you a real conversation. Let me cook for you. Dinner at my place, Saturday at 7. I'll pick you up. Ethan. Underneath, an address. A neighborhood she'd only ever seen from the bus window, where houses weren't stacked on top of each other, and the grass looked like someone actually cared about it. Mia whistled. Is that? Yes, Lily said. You're going, right? Mia asked, eyes bright. Come on. Free food. Probably the kind that doesn't come with a clearance sticker. It's not a joke, Lily snapped, then winced at her own tone. This is complicated. He's my boss. Sort of. And he still runs the machine that almost destroyed my knee. And he also helped you get the surgery pushed through faster and got you transferred to that desk job while you recover, Mia pointed out, and visits you after PT and pretends it's just to talk about corporate policy. Heat crept up Lily's neck. You've been spying. You limp in with coffee that costs more than our internet bill, Mia said. I'm not blind. Lily swallowed. Ethan had kept his word. HR had miraculously found funds to cover what insurance didn't. Her form had moved from pending to approved overnight, and a week later, she was doing part-time admin work for the same store, sitting down most of the day. Officially, it was all within policy. Unofficially, everyone knew whose signature had shoved the process along. I still don't trust him, Lily murmured. Good, Mia said. Then you won't be stupid. But you can still eat his food. Lily stared at the invitation again. Her thumb brushed over her name. I'll think about it, she said. On Saturday at 6:58, Ethan's car pulled up exactly on time. You thought about it, Mia whispered as Lily adjusted her brace and grabbed her bag. A lot. Lily shot her a look. Text me if you need anything. Obviously. Have fun. Don't sign any contracts. Or prenups.
Mia.
Her sister grinned. Kidding. Kind of. Go. Ethan waited at the bottom of the stairs instead of honking. He'd left the suit at home tonight. Dark jeans, a simple sweater, coat open to the chill. He looked normal. That was almost more disarming than the expensive shirts. You look good, he said softly, eyes flicking to her knee. How's the pain? Manageable, she said. I can make it through a day without wanting to set the store on fire, so that's progress. His mouth curved. High praise. The drive took them uphill, into streets she'd never walked. Wide sidewalks.
Trees.
Houses that had gates instead of peeling paint. When they turned into a driveway, Lily actually laughed. This is insane, she said, staring up at the modern, glass-fronted house. Do you live in a magazine? It came with the job, he said dryly. Or the job came because of this. Depends who you ask. Inside, everything was open and bright. Clean lines, soft furniture, art that probably cost more than her annual salary. But the kitchen felt like someone actually lived there. A cookbook open on the counter. A pot already steaming. A pan waiting on the stove. You actually cook? Lily asked, suspicion creeping in. This isn't some caterer hiding in the pantry, right? He lifted the lid on the pot. Chicken simmering with herbs, tomatoes, garlic. The smell wrapped around her, warm and comforting. I promised I'd cook, he said. Pasta, as requested. I know at least 3 recipes that won't poison you. You remembered that, she blurted. That you said your comfort food was cheap pasta dressed up with whatever leftovers you had? He said.
Yes.
I also remember you said your mom used to burn garlic bread, but you liked it better that way. Her chest squeezed. I mentioned that once. I listen, he said simply. He handed her a cutting board and a knife. If you're up for it, chop the parsley. I've learned it's disarming to let people wield knives in my kitchen. She snorted. Bold move, considering our history. They moved around each other cautiously at first, like dancers who didn't know the steps yet. But as the water boiled and the sauce thickened, a strange ease settled in. He bumped her shoulder lightly when she zoned out. She flicked a bit of parsley at him when he got too serious, explaining why some lawsuits had actually helped improve company policy. At the table, with plates of chicken pasta and a simple salad between them, the silence felt full but not hostile. This is good, she admitted after the first bite. Suspiciously good. My mom used to make a version of this on nights. She felt guilty, he said. She raised an eyebrow. Guilty about what? Not being around, he said. Missing school events. Sleeping through weekends. She'd make this on Sunday nights before her overnight shift. Cheap, filling, lots of leftovers. It tasted like an apology and a promise at the same time. Lily chewed, swallowed. Did she keep the promise? Yes and no, he said, staring at his fork. She kept us fed.
Kept the lights on.
She didn't keep her health. I watched her body give out long before anyone offered her help. That sticks. Pieces clicked into place. His obsession with systems. His fear of precedent. The way he flinched, almost imperceptibly, when she mentioned people being used up and tossed. Is she? Lily began. Gone, he said quietly. 5 years now. I'm sorry, she said. He nodded once, as if accepting a contract. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then he glanced at her, studying her face like he wanted to say something and didn't know how. What? She asked, nerves prickling. Do I have sauce on my face? You look familiar, he said, almost to himself. Not just lately, from before. She laughed. We grew up in the same city. Everyone looks familiar eventually. No, he insisted. Hang on. He stood and walked to a shelf, pulled down a small wooden box. Out of it, he took a faded photograph. He slid it across the table. The picture was of a narrow street Lily knew too well, cracked sidewalks, kids playing with a beat-up soccer ball. In the background, a younger version of Ethan leaned against a stoop, tall even then, wearing a hand-me-down blazer that didn't quite fit. In the foreground, half-blurred, a girl in a cheap floral dress walked past, carrying a grocery bag. Her hair was pulled into a loose ponytail. Her expression was tired but focused. It was Lily, 16, maybe 17. Her breath caught. Where did you get this? I used to sit on those steps, he said, after school. Before my shift at the diner. You walked by almost every day. Sometimes with a woman I assumed was your mom. Sometimes with a little girl. Mia, she whispered. Her throat felt tight. I thought you were, he hesitated, a rare shyness breaking through. I thought you were the most put-together person I'd ever seen. You always looked like you knew exactly where you were going, even when you were just hauling discount cereal and canned soup. She snorted, eyes burning. We were broke. Any put-together you saw was me trying not to fall apart. I didn't know how to talk to you, he admitted. I was this awkward kid in a blazer my mom insisted made me look professional. I'd rehearse things in my head. Nice weather, or that bag looks heavy. And then you'd walk by, and I'd just freeze. You never said a word, she said slowly, flipping through old memories. But I remember there was this quiet guy on the stairs, always in the same jacket. I thought you were judging me. He blinked. Judging you? You had these neat notebooks and a lunch in a real container, she said. I figured you were one of those kids who was going somewhere. I thought if I talked to you, you'd hear my voice and know I didn't belong in your world. He laughed then, an incredulous, almost startled sound. Lily, I skipped lunch 3 days a week, so I could afford that stupid blazer. I definitely was not above anyone. They stared at each other, the years between 16 and 30 folding oddly in the middle. You kept this? She asked, touching the photo gently. I kept a lot of pointless things back then, he said. Old flyers, receipts, anything that made me feel like that time was real. But I kept this because of you. The room felt too small suddenly. Her heart slammed against her ribs. So you've been secretly in love with me since I was hauling cereal? She asked, trying to make it a joke and failing halfway through. In love is a big phrase for a broke teenage idiot who couldn't say hello, he said.
But yes.
I noticed you. A lot. And then life happened. College. Work. The company. I thought I'd imagined you. And then I limped into your office and yelled at you, she said, half dazed. And I thought, of course, he said softly. Of course, she's still the one person who can walk into my space and tell me the truth. Her pulse thrummed in her ears. Somewhere between hospital corridors and grocery aisles and this kitchen, her view of him had shifted. He was still the CEO whose decisions scared her. He was also the boy on the steps, the son of the exhausted woman, the man who cooked chicken and pasta because apologies and promises had to taste like something. This is insane, she thought. I cannot be falling for him. Out loud, she said, my therapist, if I had one, would call this a power imbalance nightmare. He smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. Mine would probably say the same. They cleared the plates together. At the sink, shoulders brushing occasionally, the air between them buzzed with a tension that wasn't anger for once. When his hand accidentally grazed her wrist, she didn't pull away. Later, they ended up on the couch, coffee mugs in hand, the city glittering below the massive windows. Lily stretched her leg out carefully. It ached, but in a manageable way. How much longer until you're fully healed? He asked. Couple more months, the doctor says, she replied. Then I'll be able to walk without thinking about every step. He nodded.
Good.
You deserve that. She studied him. You sound like you'll be around to see it. Something flickered across his face. He set his mug down. I need to tell you something, he said. Before this, whatever this is, goes any further. Her stomach tightened. That's never a good sentence. He took a breath. For once, he looked unsure, like he was back on that stoop in the too big blazer. The board wants me to relocate, he said. We're opening a new regional hub in another city. They want me there to oversee it. It's a promotion, technically. The words slid between them like ice. How long? She asked. Long term, he said. At least a few years. The ache in her knees suddenly seemed louder. And you'll take it? I haven't decided, he said quietly. Yes, you have, she said. This is your whole life. Your identity. You don't know how to be anything but the man in charge of too much. His jaw worked. It's not that simple. It is, she said, anger rising to meet the fear. You go. I stay. End of story. He leaned forward. Come with me. She laughed, harsh and startled. What? I'm not saying tomorrow, he said quickly. I'm not saying abandon everything. I'm saying consider it. You could transfer to a store there. Or not. We could figure something out. With what money? She snapped. I just finished begging for surgery. My sister's still in school. Our landlord loves raising rent but hates fixing anything. I can't just pack up and chase you to some new skyline. His eyes darkened. I never asked you to chase me.
That's what it is, though, she said.
You be the man with options, moving for opportunity, adjusting my life like one of your policies. I'd be the girl who followed the CEO and hoped he didn't change his mind. That's not fair, he said, voice fraying around the edges. I'm trying to include you in my decision. To choose you.
Then stay, she said.
Silence dropped like a stone. Their eyes locked. He looked torn in half, and she hated that a small, selfish part of her wanted him to suffer for having so much to lose. I don't know if I can, he said finally. If I say no, someone else takes it. Someone who might not care about the people at the bottom. Someone who might undo any good I've managed to do. And there it is, she said, heart thudding. You and your bricks. Your walls. Your need to hold everything up by yourself. And you and your pride, he shot back quietly. Your need to prove you don't need anyone, even when you obviously do. The words stung because they were true. She stood, bracing on the coffee table for a moment before her knees steadied. I should go, she said. Lily, when do you leave? She asked, not looking at him. A week, he said, unless I tell them otherwise. Then good luck, she said, forcing her voice to stay level. I hope your new city has a great clearance aisle. He flinched. That's it. What else is there? She asked, finally meeting his eyes. You go build your empire. I'll stay here and make sure my sister gets out of the one we were born into. We were always walking in opposite directions. We just bumped into each other for a minute. He took a step toward her, then stopped, as if crossing that space would make everything irrevocable. I don't want this to be a bump, he said. Then you shouldn't have built your life on a hill, she said softly. Some of us can't climb that far. She let him drive her home in near silence. At her door, he opened his mouth like he might apologize or take it all back. She beat him to it. Don't stay for me, she said. You'd resent me eventually. He swallowed. And if I go, I'll resent you immediately, she said. But at least it'll be honest. He almost smiled. Almost. Good night, Lily, he said. She closed the door gently behind her, leaned her forehead against the wood, and finally let herself cry. In the dark, with Mia's soft snoring from the next room and the city humming outside, she admitted something she'd been avoiding for weeks. She was already in love with a man whose life was built to leave people like her behind. The week after dinner stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Lily went to physical therapy, did her exercises, and answered emails at her new desk job. She processed schedules, filed incident reports, read memos with Ethan's name in the header, and tried not to picture him packing his office. He didn't call. He didn't text. No more envelopes under the door. Mia watched her carefully. Have you heard from him? She asked on the third day. No, Lily said, eyes on the computer screen. He's busy choosing which skyline to own next. On the fifth day, the company-wide email hit her inbox. We are pleased to announce that, effective immediately, Ethan Cole will be leading the launch of our new regional hub in Northbridge. Her vision blurred halfway down the paragraph. She closed the laptop and sat very still. So that's that, she told herself. He chose. The pain in her knee flared that night, more phantom than real. She dreamed of clearance aisles that stretched forever, of a boy in a too-big blazer and a man in a glass house, both walking away in opposite directions. On the seventh day, a crash jolted her awake. She blinked at the alarm clock. 8:12 a.m. A Saturday. Outside her window, someone cursed loudly. Something heavy thumped against the wall. Mia stuck her head into Lily's room, hair wild. Did you hear that? I think someone's moving in next door. Great, Lily muttered, rolling onto her back. New neighbor, same paper-thin walls. Another loud scrape. A man's voice. Careful with that box. It's heavier than it looks. The voice curled around her spine, familiar in a way that made her heart jump and her stomach clench.
No.
It couldn't be. She shoved off the blanket, shoved her brace on out of habit, and limped to the window. From there, she could see the narrow parking lot and the small staircase leading up to the apartment next to hers. A moving truck sat crookedly in one of the spots. A man in a worn t-shirt and jeans stood by the back, directing the movers. His hair was mussed, his expression focused. When he turned his head, the world tipped.
Ethan.
Lily's hand slapped against the window frame. You have got to be kidding me, she whispered. Mia appeared at her shoulder. Is that? Yes, Lily said.
No.
Maybe. I don't know, I might still be asleep. As if sensing her, he glanced up. Their eyes met through the slightly dirty glass. He smiled. Not the controlled boardroom smile. Something crooked, a little nervous, like he was 16 again on the steps. Lily jerked back from the window. Mia grabbed her arm. You're going out there, right? I should change, Lily blurted. You look fine, Mia said. You look like a woman whose neighbor has some serious explaining to do. Her heart hammering, Lily opened the apartment door and stepped into the hallway. The door next door was propped open with a box. Ethan stood inside, directing a mover with a lamp. Bedroom, please, he said, then turned, and gasped when he saw her. Hi, he said, like they'd run into each other at the store again, and not at the edge of a life-altering decision. You're supposed to be in Northbridge, she said. Her voice sounded strange in her own ears. I was, he said, for a week. She blinked. You went. I went, he confirmed. I toured the hub, shook hands, sat in meetings, ate terrible catered lunches. I stared at a city I don't know from the top of another glass box and thought, this is what I'm supposed to want. And, she asked, crossing her arms partly to steady herself. And I couldn't sleep, he said simply. Not because of the job. Because every time I closed my eyes, I saw you limping out of my car, closing the door like it was the last time. I heard you saying, don't stay for me. He took a step closer. The movers passed behind him with a box of books, clearly trying not to stare. So I resigned, he said. The words dropped between them like furniture. You resigned, she repeated, as if sampling a foreign language. I stepped down as CEO, he clarified. I'll stay on as a consultant for a while, and the board will hate me, and I'm sure there will be angry op-eds about my irresponsible timing. But I'm not moving to Northbridge. I'm moving here. To my building, she said. Next door. If I'd moved into a different neighborhood, you'd have accused me of hiding, he said, a faint smile tugging at his mouth. This seemed honest. Her brain scrambled to keep up. You gave up your position, your salary, your everything. Not everything, he said, and there was a steadiness in his gaze she hadn't seen before. I still have savings. I still have skills. I can work, just not the way I was. not at the cost I was paying. What cost? She demanded. You had a house on a hill, a car that didn't wheeze going uphill, people saying yes every time you open your mouth. And I had no one who would tell me the truth, he said quietly. No one whose future I cared about more than my own reputation. Until you. The hallway felt too small, too bright. The thump of boxes from his apartment and the distant hum of traffic seemed oddly far away. This is insane, she said. You can't throw away a career for. You didn't let me finish, he cut in gently. I didn't leave just for you. That would put too much weight on your shoulders. I left because I realized the way I was living was unsustainable.
For me.
I was using my past as an excuse to stay in a job that kept me distant from the people I swore I wanted to protect. He exhaled. You held up a mirror. I didn't like what I saw, so I stepped away. And moved in next door, she said again, because her brain hadn't cleared that hurdle yet. I looked at a map, he admitted. Tried to be rational. Where can I afford to live for a while, without draining everything? Where can I start over without pretending I'm someone I'm not? He glanced down the hallway, toward her door. And where can I be close enough to the woman I'm in love with without showing up at her door every morning like a stray dog? The words hung there, warm and terrifying. In love with, she repeated, very softly. He swallowed. I've been orbiting you since we were teenagers, Lily. Too scared to say hello, too busy to admit why I kept looking at every grocery aisle like you might turn the corner. The night you limped into my office, I thought I was being haunted. I'm done pretending it's anything else. Her heart clenched. Anger, fear, and something bright and fragile tangled together. Do you know how terrifying it is to hear that? She asked. From a man who still has more options than I can count. Yes, he said. That's why I'm not asking you to fix my life, or move in, or marry me in this hallway. I'm just giving you the truth. I left the job. I'm here. I want you, and I'll accept whatever you decide to do with that. Whatever, she echoed. If you tell me to keep my distance, he said, voice steady, I will. I'll be the polite neighbor who carries groceries up the stairs and pays his rent on time. If you need time, I'll give you time. If you want to try, we try. But this time, you pick the pace. No more surprises. No more envelopes under doors. She searched his face, looking for cracks. For pity, for manipulation. All she saw was a man who looked tired and hopeful and absolutely terrified of losing something he hadn't even really had yet. Behind her, her own door creaked open. Mia's head poked out, hair messier than before. Are you going to kiss him or yell at him? She stage whispered. Because I need to know if I should start packing or baking a cake. Mia, Lily groaned. Ethan's mouth curved.
Hi, Mia.
Hi, former CEO of my sister's misery, Mia said cheerfully. Nice boxes. Very normal people of you. Lily covered her face with one hand. This is my life now. Yeah, Mia said. Kind of looks like it. Also, if you two are going to have a life-changing conversation, do it inside. The neighbors are nosy. She ducked back in, leaving the door ajar. Lily let out a shaky breath. She likes you more than she should. I'll earn it, he said, if you let me. She leaned against the door frame, feeling the solid wood under her palm, the familiar weight of her own front door, the life she'd fought for with every scraped paycheck and painful step. You really left it all? She asked one last time. I left a title, he said. Not myself. I'd already started losing that long before Northbridge. It wasn't an easy decision, and it wouldn't make everything simple. There would be money problems, career questions, awkward run-ins with former colleagues. She would still have to fight for Mia, for herself, for every step her newly repaired knee took. But for the first time, when she imagined those battles, she didn't picture herself alone. I'm still mad at you, she said. I know, he answered softly. And I'm scared, she added. Me too, he said. She studied him a moment longer. Then she stepped forward, closing the distance that had once been a whole city. Come in, she said. Meet my disaster of a kitchen. We'll start there. Slowly. His relief was almost physical, like a breath she felt rather than heard. He nodded, picked up a box labeled kitchen, and followed her inside. Later that evening, after Mia had shamelessly grilled him on everything from health insurance options to his worst boardroom mistake, after they'd unpacked half his plates onto her counter because his cabinets weren't installed yet, Lily walked him to the door. The hallway was quiet now, the moving truck gone. This doesn't mean you get to fix everything, she warned. I'm still working, still taking care of Mia, still making my own choices. Good, he said. I like you better that way. And if you turn into some bored rich guy complaining about the noise from our TV through the wall, he smiled. Then you can limp into my apartment and yell at me. Again. She hesitated, then reached up, resting her hand lightly on his chest. His heartbeat thudded under her palm, fast and real. You hurt me, she said, not as an accusation, but as a fact they both had to hold. I know, he said, voice rough. I am going to spend a long time making that right. Her throat tightened. No promises you can't keep. I promise only this, he said. I'm not leaving because it's easier. Not again. If I have to go anywhere, we talk about it first. As equals. The words settled between them, warm. She rose onto her toes, Brace protesting slightly, and brushed her mouth against his. Soft at first, then deeper when his hand hovered, asked permission, and she didn't pull away. When they broke apart, she was breathless for reasons that had nothing to do with her knee. Welcome to the building, neighbor, she murmured. He laughed quietly. Best promotion I've had yet. They didn't fix everything overnight. Ethan took on consulting work, smaller, less shiny, but closer to the ground. Lily kept her admin job and eventually took classes at night, prodded by Mia and bribed by Ethan's insistence on cooking once a week. They argued a lot about money, about responsibility, about the ghosts of their parents' choices. But they also learned how to listen, really listen without armor. On rainy evenings, when the ache in Lily's knee reminded her of everything she'd lost and gained, she would find Ethan at her kitchen table, sleeves rolled up, going through HR reports not as numbers, but as stories. He'd ask her, "What would this feel like if it were you?" and actually took her answers back to the people who replaced him. And sometimes, when the world felt too heavy, they'd just sit on the hallway floor between their two doors, backs against opposite walls, knees almost touching, laughing about nothing. They never quite stopped being tense, two stubborn people with too much history packed into too small a space, but the tension shifted. Less like a wire about to snap, more like a tightrope they chose to walk together. Years later, When Mia told the story of how her sister ended up living next door to a former millionaire CEO, she always started with the same line. It began with a bad knee, a grocery store, and a man who finally decided that loving someone was more important than staying at the top of a tower. Lily, listening from the couch, would roll her eyes and pretend she hated that version. But privately, every time she watched Ethan carry bags up the stairs without complaint, every time he winced when she winced and laughed when she laughed, she knew it was true. He'd once been the man who caused her to need knee surgery. Now, he was the man who stood beside her, step by careful step, as she finally learned how to walk through life on her own terms, without collapsing, without apologizing, and never, ever alone.